All praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson talking about how you can't ignore this particular point when you're speaking about who salvation is for, all right? Because Yahweh shows who he's dealing with, and Yahweh shows who he has got a contract with, and Yahweh shows who he loves by making contracts with them. All right, he shows who he loves and he shows who he cares about by making contracts with them, and also known as covenants, also known as a testament. Right, a testament is also the same thing as saying a covenant, or saying the same thing as saying a contract. Right, this is Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Right, so I'm going to try and go verse by verse. So that's Hebrews chapter 8. That's Jeremiah chapter 39. Jeremiah chapter 31. Right, saying, behold, the days come that I'm going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel. And I'm going to go to Hebrews 8. Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 8. For finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, when I'll make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Right, so it's the same thing when you go there. Now I'm going to go to the next verse. So Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 32. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although as a husband unto them, saith Yahweh. So he's saying that he's going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah, not according to the same covenant they made with their fathers when he took them out of the land of Egypt, right? So it's going to have a difference, right? So now let's go to Hebrews 8 and 9 and see what it says there. Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 9. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant and regarded them not, saith Yahweh. Right, so it's the same thing again. And what I'm going to try and do one of the days, man, I'll try and like make an image or something like that, showing exactly both of these verses side by side or something, man. I think that would be a good thing to see, man, to see both of these verses side by side, or maybe there's an particular app that I don't know about that can do this, man, because nothing's changed. The wording slightly changed so far. I'm not seeing no changing in the word. The wording changed, but the meaning's the same. The wording changed slightly, but the meaning's the same. And now let's see what Jeremiah 31 and verse 33 says. Right, Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 33. But this shall be the covenant that I'll make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I'll put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. So now let's go to Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 10 to see what that says, right? Because no matter what these people want to say, man, you can't get around this point when speaking about salvation. You can't. This is the point that you can't get around, because you can't read about this being offered to any other nation by name. You can't see that. And if the new covenant was really for all people, it would have went something along the lines of this. For finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a covenant with all people, because their Israelites sinned. So therefore I sent my son to die for their sins and gave it unto everyone. It would say something along those lines, but it don't say that, right? It still goes on to say that he's going to make the covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. But I just read Jeremiah 31 and verse 33, right? So now I'm going to read Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 10 and see if they match. Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 10, for this is the covenant that I'll make with the house of Israel after those days, saith Yahweh. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. Right? So it's the same thing again. Now let's go to Jeremiah, right? Let's go Jeremiah 31. Jeremiah 31 and 34, because really, if you heard somebody just read that without quoting it, right, that's how closely these scriptures are sound similar. If you just heard somebody read that, you would kind of, unless you've you've read that scripture a lot of times, you wouldn't know which version they're reading from. You wouldn't know whether they're reading about the new covenant from the Old Testament versus the New. It's very similar the way how it sounds and the way how it's worded, man, because it's just talking about the same thing taking place. Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 34. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Right now, let's go to Hebrews 8 and 11 now. Let's see if that's comparable. Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 11. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. Right? So again, it's similar, man. Right? It's very similar, and these things pretty much sound exactly the same. Right? They pretty much sound exactly the same. And let me read the Jeremiah one again. Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 34. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I'll remember their sin no more. Now, the reason why this verse sounds a bit longer, right? I just noticed something. Let me read. Let me go to this, right? Let me go to this. I'm pretty sure I've just noticed something now as I'm reading it. Yeah, the reason why Jeremiah 31 and 34 sounds so similar is because whoever put the codex in, when they was putting the coding in for the Bible verses, which it originally didn't have that, by the way, for people that didn't necessarily know that, the Bible didn't necessarily have that coding system, right? If you was to read Hebrews chapter 8 verse 11 and verse 12 together, and was to say that that was one whole verse in a coding system by itself, it would be pretty much worded exactly the same as what Jeremiah 31 and verse 34 was, man. And that's what you can't get around when you're talking about salvation. Now, let me go to what it says after it mentions the new covenant being for the Israelites in the Old Testament. Let's go into something that shows how drastic measures would have to be taken place in order for the new covenant to no longer belong to the Israelites, right? This is Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 35. Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me. So you gotta get rid of the sun, you gotta get rid of the moon, you gotta get rid of the stars, right? You've gotta make the sea not dividing when the waves roar. You gotta do all of that in order to make the Israelites not be a nation anymore. And that's not possible. Because these things existed before there was a nation of any kind. These things existed before there was Adam or Eve. These things existed according to what the book of Genesis, which means in the beginning. These things existed from the beginning, or in the beginning. Verse 37, thus saith Yahweh, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith Yahweh. Right? But that cannot happen. And the scriptures mention that, just in case people was confused. But yet people still are out there on their campaigns to try and search out the heavens, trying to shoot rockets into the sky and search out the heavens. But it's a pointless mission, you know. Jeremiah chapter 33 and they're doing it not to try and enjoy Yahweh's world. They're doing it so that we can be destroyed. Because the Israelites are going to search out Yahweh's earth also. But we're going to do it so that we can understand his glorious works and speak about them with understanding. We ain't going to just be trying to search out things so that we can make things be destroyed. We're going to glorify these things. Yahweh's put these things on the earth, beautify them so that we can get enjoyment out of them, man. And so that we'll continually never be bored in the everlasting life that we're going to receive. We're going to always have new things to discover. Jeremiah chapter 33 and verse 22, as the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David, my servant, and the Levites that minister unto me. So these are points that you can't try and throw away when you're talking about how salvation's for everybody. You can't get rid of this point, because what they try and say in this saying that salvation for everybody is to try and put Israelites at the back of the salvation and try and say, oh, where it says Israel, that's talking about us. That imagine someone comes to you've got a delivery come to your house, yeah, and you've got a package, and the package has clearly got your name on it, but the person's trying to say, nah, that's me. And that's what these Edomites actually do in reality, man. They be doing, I don't know what the term's called, porch pirates or something like that. Porch pirate, right? Where a person gets the delivery and they come to their house and they be stealing it, man. And certain wicked Israelites do it too. But Edomites be going even further. They be trying to say, that's my name. When they get caught red-handed on camera, man, they be lying, man. And then catching an attitude when they get caught thieving and stealing. Damn devils. But let me read this anyway. Verse 30, verse 25. In fact, verse 24. Considerest thou not what these people have spoken, saying, the two families which Yahweh have chosen, ye have even cast them off. Thus they have despised my people, that there should be no more a nation before them. Thus saith Yahweh, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for I will cause their captivity to return and have mercy on them. Right? So if you understand all of these things, right? If you understand all of these things, watch this. If you understand all of these things, then you gotta understand this. Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 17. But Israel shall be saved in Yahweh with an everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. Why would Israel not be ashamed or confounded, world without end? Well, let's go to it, man. But you shall not be ashamed nor confounded, Israel, that is the world without end. Why not? Let's go into it. For God so loved the world. Which world? The world of Israel, right? For God so loved the world, for Yahweh so loved the world, for the Most High Yahweh so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, Yahushai, that whosoever believe in him from the house of Israel, right, should not perish. Whosoever from the house of Israel believes in Yahushai isn't going to perish, but have everlasting life. They're going to live forever. They're going to be immortal, right? They're going to be immortal, man. And these are points that you cannot try and throw away when you're speaking about salvation. You can't try and throw away the fact that Yahweh said that the earth has to be done away with, that the heavens have to be searched out, and that the earth has to be searched out beneath in order for the Israelites to not be the chosen, in order for him to cast them off for the things that they've did. And that's the reason why these other nations try and say that salvation is for them. They're trying to say they've replaced the Israelites. That's what they try and say. Replacement theology, supersessionism, the whole main thing that belief system originates around, right, is the belief that Yahweh cast away the Israelites because they kept sinning too many times. And not only did they keep sinning too many times, but they rejected the Messiah, as if every single Israelite rejected the Messiah, which is not true. There were several Israelites that believed in Yahushua. And even after Yahushua had been crucified, when you read the book of Acts, the 2nd chapter, you find out that even still then, after it was fresh that he'd been crucified, they was cut to the heart after they got rebuked. And they said, men, what shall we do? Brethren, what shall we do? And they said to them, repent and be baptized in the name of Yahushua. And that didn't mean be baptized in a water neither. That meant change up your ways and realize that Yahushua is the sacrifice for any sins that you do in the further, and try and offend less. That's what that meant, man. And these are things that you cannot try and throw away. These are points you cannot try and hide when you're speaking about salvation, because if salvation was for everybody, it would clearly be mentioned that it would just say that this is the new covenant that I make with the whole world or with everybody now. It would just say that. It wouldn't say with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. And let me see if I can quickly do this point as well. Let me see if I can quickly just show this point, because eventually there's not going to be no more thing of a house of Israel and house of Judah anymore. It's going to be the Israelites again. This is Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 21. And say unto them, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and I will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king unto them all. And they shall no more be two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. All right, so that's clear. That's clear, man. But people be saying that the salvation's for everybody, but that's not true. It's only for the Israelites. Right? And I'm going to end the lesson there. All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. Shalom.